From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spar on the radio.
Hello to Jo Hook. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Let me chat to you today. So, can you tell me how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
Well, that kind of will tell you how old I am, won't it? Probably over 30 years, I'd say.
So, what you got into becoming a singer-songwriter?
Necessity. It was. I think it was a necessity when I was younger. I think that I turned to music, for comfort, for solace, for expression, and that included playing instruments and writing. And I was doing that from a very young age. But that it was always really a kind of a bit of a self-obsessed act when I was kind of younger. It wasn't formulated so much. It was very much a form of expression and a form of solace and comfort, I think. So that's what got me into it. My parents were kind of real lovers of listening to music, and I think that I grew up around music. My dad had a electric guitar, which I thought was probably the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. My mum had a classical, and I thought that was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. I love guitars. I'm like a proper guitar geek. And I wanted to play it. And I love, and piano as well, I guess, although I don't really claim to play piano. I claim to bash out noises on it. So that's what got me into it, I think.
So, what kind of guitar have you got?
At the moment, I'm playing an Atkin acoustic, which is made by Alistair Atkin, who is a local luthier. They really are beautiful. Weirdly, they are not weirdly because it's very appropriate, but they are described as the songwriter's guitar. I love that. I've got an Atkin electric as well, which is sparkly turquoise, which is a thing of very big beauty. And I've got a Levinson blade as well, which make both. Well, all guitars make an appearance on my new album. So
did it long to play the guitar?
I'm still learning, I think. I think that I never took lessons. I don't think I probably had the patience, and I still struggle to read music, even though I kind of know the rules, but I struggle to do it. And I think, that's the thing about kind of recognizing notes on a page. I find that they're very difficult. They kind of jump around a bit. So the kind of lessons-based stuff just never inspired me. So I'm always learning, and always going, oh God, I should have known that really, at my age. But I'm still learning is my answer to that, really. And still trying to improve.
So, I'm guessing you, when you first finished your debut album, did you go to a recording studio on that one?
I did. I went to another recording studio in Canterbury, under the kind of mastering, engineering, recording by Julian Whitfield, who at that time I was about 21, 22 when I did my first album, and he brought together a group of musicians to kind of take the songs that I'd written and to kind of turn them into something different. And it's funny because I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with my first album. I loved doing it at the time. It was very exciting for me. I felt cooler than I'd ever felt in my life, hanging around with these kind of professional musicians who who were just amazing. And but was it me? I don't know. And so I flip back and forth between kind of thinking it's a lot of fun and thinking, don't know. But then I think about that about every album that I've done.
So I guess it was a great experience to be in that recording studio when you first went there.
Yeah, I realised that I really love the recording process and the kind of the creativity that comes with the recording process. The inspiration that you get is a very different feeling to when you're playing live and performing. It's a real privilege and gift to be able to kind of be in a creative space and be able to kind of create layers and sounds and whilst having fun. I mean, what's not to like, really? If you like music, it's I think it's the best fun. It's one of my favourite things to do.
So can you tell me more about your debut album, Silence Surrounds Me?
Yeah, I recorded that about 10 years ago, and I'd contacted a local musician, a local professional musician who's a multi-instrumentalist and member of the band Caravan, and also currently plays with a range of other people, including Murray Head. He used to play with Bob Geldof, and he kind of plays on a lot of other people's album. And you know, I originally went to him for to record it, but it ended up being an album that was so much the two of us that I ended up calling it Jeffrey Richardson and Jo Hook. So whilst I refer to it as my third album, I did actually credit Jeffrey on the title, saying Jeffrey Richardson and Jo Hook, or Jo Hook and Jeffrey Richardson, because there's so much of his work in there. And it's lovely. It's completely different to, as each album is, completely different to the album that went before and the album that went before. It's a real folk pop melodic album.
So can you tell me more about your album called Inside Out?
Yes, that's the first one. And it's a mixture of tunes. It really is the kind of collection of songs that I wrote from probably age 18 to 23. So it's in a much shorter time period than some of the other songs. And it's got kind of all sorts on it. It's got kind of songs that go from kind of a heavy rock to and then halfway through the song go to a kind of trancey sounding background to you know, kind of scratchy DJ records, and then kind of, you know, the acoustic stuff. But it's a really difficult album for me to explain because it's so different. Every song is so different in genre, which does seem to happen a lot with my music.
So you got not one set genre of music, which is quite good, really.
Well, I'm beginning to kind of go, okay, this is a natural result of my wide range of influences and what I like, as opposed to anything else. I used to struggle with the fact that I couldn't find a very easy genre to put myself into, and sometimes I still do. I say to musicians who work with me, can you tell me what genre this is, please, hoping for some enlightenment, and they can't tell me either. So I've kind of given up and gone for singer-songwriter because it feels like it kind of works best, really, with a lot of influences from other music.
So can you tell me more about the album called Settle Down?
Okay, so Settle Down is a band album. At that point, I had a band called Hook, and in that band we had myself on acoustic guitar, a guy called Jez on electric guitar, a bass player, and a drummer. And that was much more kind of an indie sounding album with some acoustic and jazz influences. as a band album, I absolutely love it. Actually, it's one of my favourites for what the sound we had as a band. And I think that's when I started to explore kind of, I'd introduced a jazz pianist called Frances Knight who'd done some work on my first album. I didn't use her on my third, but I used a jazz pianist called Perry White on my fourth. And there's something about that combined with the other stuff that really works for me. And it doesn't mean to say it's jazz, but it's got that influence.
So, can you tell me more about your new single called I Will Dance? What's that all about?
So, I Will Dance is... dancing appears to be a bit of a theme amongst some of my songwriting. And to me, what I'm talking about that is kind of doing things you have to do, getting up and carrying on, how there are whole modes of behaviours and kind of social expectations that we have of each other and how we operate. And I Will Dance is about my life being interrupted, and that's because I live with a long-term health condition, which as I've got older has become more rudely interruptive of my progress and kind of achievements of things. And I Will Dance is about, kind of saying to myself, it's all right, I'll just, I'll get up and I'll carry on. I can do this. I know what to do. And it's also a tale of, that there's lyrics in there that talk about myself as an angry child, because this long-term health condition started then, started when I was a baby. So it's some reflection of a lifetime of interruptions. And I'm calling it interruptions because sometimes people talk about it as a suffering, and I don't see it like that. I see it as an interruption, and because I feel like suffering is a very, I think suffering is a very dramatic word, and I think there really are people out there in life that suffer. And, actually, I've had amazing care, and been very lucky. So to me, I prefer to think of it as being, interrupted rudely on a frequent basis. So I Will Dance is about kind of getting up and just keeping on going. I could have said that more simply, couldn't I? Sorry.
So, can you tell me more about your new album released on the 29th of June called Shiny Disposable Things?
Yes. Could you tell me the question again? Sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
Can you tell me more about that, your new album that released on the 29th of June?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about this album. So this is a collection of songs that I've written over the last 10 years, and some of them are even older, that I wanted to look at musically, and that I wanted to kind of tell a story in the fourth album that was about the kind of the journey that I'd got to. And so, there are songs in there that refer back to the kind of the health condition. So things like Needles and Weasels, there's a song in there that's about, actually just being freaked out, being in hospital a lot. There's songs in there about, kind of relationships, as there always are in most, songwriting, and learning. So for me, it feels like it's an album of a different era, and I didn't have that feeling before. Maybe that's because where I am at in my age, or where I'm at in myself, but it feels like it's an album in a different place. And somebody said to me, this is the album you were always supposed to make. It's a mix of songs, but there's a basic trio behind the album, which is myself, Richard Bates on the bass, and Perry White on piano, and we became the kind of core trio. And then I invited in a range of other musicians to come in to play around us. But also, this is the first album where I've played harmonica, electric guitar, keyboards, and there was something else I played which I've completely forgotten, which is helpful. But it's the first album where I've really expressed myself as a musician more rather than just a songwriter as well. So there's lots of kind of me in it, and it's kind of been nice to kind of show that the electric guitarist in me, and kind of how I like to play. Kind of the song where there's harmonica, it's quite plaintive, it's quite wistful, and I'm quite proud of it because I don't claim to be a harmonica player, but it's nice, so I'm really excited about it actually. And as an album, it feels like an album, if that makes any sense. I'm sure you know what I mean, as to listen to from start to end.
So, continuing about your album launch, so coming up at the 29th of June at the St Margaret's Church at Hothfield in Kent. So, continuing more about that.
Well, it's invites and tickets only, and I deliberately did that in order to keep it an event that I would, enjoy. And I'm pleased to say that it's sold out. So I'm delighted about that because I haven't played in a long time. So I was kind of trying to see what would happen. And it feels more like a celebration to me. So, it's in this beautiful church in the village where I live. And I love the idea of playing in a church and using, buildings that were built for faith, whatever your faith is, to kind of engage in something else that is kind of a reverent experience, and music kind of does that. It's a beautiful venue. It's very the friends of St Margaret's have been lovely. They're kind of getting their cooking skills on and baking skills, which actually is just a really lovely thing. And it's really nice for me because it's a special event. It's not kind of just in a pub somewhere. And for me, that could feel less. And I'm not dissing pubs in any way, but for me, it feels more special because it's in a church and it's dedicated tickets and it's invites and people that I want to share it with, or I want to perform to, or people that want to hear me perform. Not everybody wants to listen to singer-songwriters on a Saturday night. Certainly not in when people go out drinking and stuff like that. So I feel like having it like this creates a really nice listening environment, they're the types of gigs I love to go to, where you can really listen and pay attention. And that's the kind of gig I wanted to have. So
finally, can you tell my listeners, how's it been an independent artist for you?
How's it being an independent artist for me? I don't think I've given myself that identity for a long time. I think this is probably the first time that I'll acknowledge that is the case. I think for me, it's about knowing what I want, having balanced expectations, and believing in myself. And it's no longer for me about music for me now isn't about kind of fame and fortune. It's about working with other musicians. It's about the creativity. It's about creation of music and recording of that, and sharing it. And I'm absolutely chuffed to bits about the release of I Will Dance and how people have reacted. And it's funny because you've asked me about being an independent artist. When I first kind of thought I'm going to do this launch in a certain way, which was mostly social media, I hadn't quite got past thinking I need to do this properly, but I hadn't kind of worked out what properly was. And I never realized, or I never really kind of thought about what the feedback would be. It was so much thinking about the launch or doing it rather than what the response would be. And I've been quite taken aback really by how positive people have been. And I don't think I expected that. And it's not that I expected negativity either. I just didn't have expectations. So I think my position as an independent artist at the moment is that I'm still learning. I'm still learning what is it? What do I need to do? How do I need to think about this? The music scene, I think, is fascinating. I was out. I took out a kind of extended member of family who was 17 for a pizza the other night, and was talking to her about music, and she was playing me some music, and and then she was saying, oh, she was into The Cure and into the Smiths, and it was fascinating, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, she was going, I listened to some really old stuff, and I'm just fascinated in music. And as an artist producing it, I'm also, kind of interested in how people react to it.
So finally, can you tell me, listeners, we can find you on your social media?
Pardon?
Can you tell my listeners, where can they find you on your social media?
Oh, okay. So it's Jo Hook Singer-Songwriter on Instagram. And I think it's Jo Hook Singer-Songwriter on Facebook. If you find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook. You can also find me on Bandcamp under Jo Hook. And I am on Spotify and iTunes.
Thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
And you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.